Yeah, good afternoon once more. I want to welcome you to lecture 7 of our Mastering WordPress in Web Development. Today we have our lecture 7 and we discuss responsive design with Gutenberg. We have had a lot of discussions. Last week we looked at lecture 6. In lecture 6, we discussed how AI can help us across the entire web development, from creating color swatches to suggesting appropriate fonts and probably gaining assistance in standardizing content. We agreed that the client should always be the primary people to give us content, but AI can simply help us to standardize and probably give us suggestions on how best we can structure that very content. Well, today I will not be discussing a lot of theory. I'm going to just skip in my local and then we get started with our development. We may make this lecture shorter because there's no theory and we simply have demonstrations. There's some changes that are coming up. Our next lecture will be Wednesday and the last lecture will be Thursday. We're going to shift our lecture for this week from Friday to Thursday, same time. And we are going to compress them to 1 hour because we'll be fully discussing hands-on and we'll have no any other interaction for theories. So please take note of those changes. In subsequent courses, we have adopted WordPress Studio as our tool to create a local environment site. So I've launched my tool and this is the appearance. So far, the sites I've created here on my right here. For purposes of demonstration, I will continue with this site we've been building, but at least in the next 2 lectures, we'll be creating a new site for the purpose of creating items from scratch. That is, creating our header, footer, and other templates accordingly. Now, the fact that I've already clicked on the site and it is running, I've always asked that when using local, select your site and make sure it is running. Then click on WP admin to be redirected to the dashboard. So this is the dashboard where we are. So far, we've learned how to prepare. And by preparation, we've learned to create color palettes. We learned to suggest fonts and probably use the reference document. So if you look at the outline of our course, in week 3, we have Gutenberg Block Editor as the very first subtopic. Then we proceed to installing fonts, color palettes, setting up global styles, block spacing, and so forth. Now, what is this thing called Gutenberg Block Editor? In our WordPress site, in the dashboard, we have posts. We've looked at how we create posts in the previous lectures. So posts are like news or some temporary information we create on our website. And then we also have other content on our website created in form of pages, which is relatively permanent. So when creating posts, creating pages, or even creating any part of the website like the header and footer or templates, we use an editor which is known as Gutenberg. If you have been developing websites with me, you know that there are many editors. Next week, we'll be looking at Elementor and how we can use it from scratch as well. So once we install WordPress and probably add a theme, in the previous lectures, we put emphasis on themes. And just to show you from my dashboard, we added a theme, which is psychotherapy. I asked you to click add a theme of your choice and probably select the block theme. So once you activate a block theme, the default editor you have is called Gutenberg. On call, I want to welcome Mr. Golia. Golia, you may need some assistance somewhere, but in case you need support and you want to implement this, I would ask you to make a one-on-one session with me, and I get you up to this point, because most of the colleagues here are at this very point. So for us to have Gutenberg, you just need to add a theme, which is a block theme, and then you can continue using it. Now, to help us first understand what Gutenberg Block Editor is, I'm just going to go to posts here, and then I click on add post. So we've agreed for any content we add under full site editing, like under block themes, pages, blocks, headers, footers, the default editor which is there is Gutenberg. Now, when using Gutenberg, this is the typical interface you'll always work with. Of course, at the extreme end here is W, the WordPress logo. In case you put a site icon, it will always be here. Now, let me just continue inside Gutenberg. We have this plus sign. This plus sign is logo. It's called block inserter. So you can always click here in case you want to add a block. And what are blocks? In a WordPress site, all the content we have on the website is in terms of blocks. Yes, like you can see here, these are blocks. This is a block. This is a block. This is a block, block, and block. Now, to continue with the features a little more, just after the plus, we have the undo. In case you've made a mistake, you always click here. We have the redo. We have the document overview. I'll be explaining it in depth shortly. In the middle, we have the command palette. I'll also show you how to use it. On the extreme right of our menu, sorry, something there to show you. On the extreme end, we have the view command. I have the settings, I have publish, and then I have options. Let us just make a complete sample here. If I try to save this article as full site editing, okay, imagine we are creating an article called full site editing. And for you, when you click on add posts, by default, you'll have no full screen. You'll have something like this. So using the options button, the extreme right, we have options button. If you click on options button, you can always click on full screen, just in case you want to see the complete menu. So how do you use Gutenberg? You write your heading, like say you're creating a post, you create a title, and then you now begin creating subsequent blocks. So by default, the very first block you have is a paragraph, and you can type in your paragraph accordingly. Let me just paste a paragraph here from Lolem Ipsum. This is just dummy content, and we use that very post to continue accordingly. So this is just my sample paragraph. I have got a heading, and then I have got a paragraph. This paragraph can represent any content that you are adding in a post. If you're using Gutenberg, in case you want to create another paragraph, you click at the extreme end, and then you press enter to create a block. That is one way of adding a block. Now, once you've pressed enter, you can just start typing if at all you wanted to add a block. I'm just going to copy another block here. Right click, copy, then come here and then paste this block for learning purposes there. Now, what changes can you really add on a block? If you click on a block, there is normally this floating menu which appears. Any block you click on, it will always come. If you don't want it to be here, you can even click under options and then click on toggle toolbar. So once I click on top toolbar, this floating menu will be fixed in this top toolbar. And if I go back and click on top toolbar, it becomes a floating menu. What is in the floating menu? This floating menu has got options that can help us to enhance our block. For example, if I wanted to make this block or this paragraph to be the second paragraph, I simply click on it, go back to my floating menu. I can use this arrow, move up, move down to move. But to make it very visible, let us just create a subheading here. This is our post title. I want to add a heading on top of this paragraph. So what do? I can click on my block, click on these options, because I've told you when you click on the block, the floating menu appears. So I can click on options and then I select add before. Now when I click add before, they will add a paragraph. But remember, my point of interest is to change to a heading. So I can always click at this very point, go and click on the plus sign and switch to heading. Let me undo that a little bit. Now, in case that is not what you want, maybe you want to use another option, still you can click on this paragraph, click on the block inserter, and then select what? Heading. Let me just save this as opening heading. Opening heading. Remember, this is just dummy content. We will look at real content shortly. So I can always click on this paragraph. Maybe I want to bold, maybe I want to italicize, maybe I want to apply any change. From this floating menu, you have at least some options to use. In case you wanted to transform, maybe you have written a heading, but you realize you wanted it to be a paragraph, still you can always click on this first icon and then transform it to whatever you want. Let me click on paragraph. Now when I click on paragraph, it is transformed to a paragraph. How do we know that it is a paragraph? If I click on the document overview, earlier on when we were exploring our menu, I told you the first icon is called block inserter. The second is called undo, redo, and then we have a document overview. So this document overview has one major purpose: to help us see all the content that is added within our post or page. Every block we add on our post or page has got an icon. For paragraphs, their icons are like this one. So in case you see this, and they will always have a label. If you click on the document overview, you can know the name of the block you've added on your post or page using the outline. Let us transform this to heading. So I click on this, click on paragraph, and then I transform to heading. And baby, when you transform to heading, you can always proceed to click on a level. You know that there are up to 6 levels or sizes of headings. H1 is the biggest heading and H6 is the smallest heading. You can vary these sizes to add heading according to your preferences. Now, let me again click on the document overview. You see, the icon for the heading looks like this. The icon for a paragraph looks like this. Now, let's try to get more options here. I want us to look at the more other settings we can get from this floating menu. One, if I click on the block that I've added, I can always select options to enhance my block from these available in the floating menu, or I can click on the options at the extreme end to switch to more options. For example, there's copy, there's cut, there's duplicate, there's add paragraph, copy styles. Let me try to duplicate that heading, that paragraph. And I'm also going to duplicate this heading. So I click on the heading, click on the options, and then select duplicate. That is Gutenberg. Now, in case you want to move content, maybe you've added a block in a long place, but you want to move it anywhere. Earlier on, I told you, you can use this move down and move up. However, there's another option. You can click on the heading. Using the floating menu here, you can use the drag. The drag is the second icon. So you drag it up to the position you want to add it. So I can right click still. Rather, I can click on this, go to options, duplicate, and again, drag. So that's one way of, rather the second way of moving blocks. You can always click on the block, either use this arrow to change its position, or you can drag it using this drag icon. If you don't use drag, you can also use the document overview. How? If I click on the document overview here, at least you can now agree that there are always a list or a summary of all the blocks you have used on your post or on your page. Now, in case you want to drag, still you can drag your posts accordingly using the document overview. Maybe there are many paragraphs and you want to just jump to a given paragraph. The document overview can help you to jump to a paragraph. You can always just click on the paragraph from the document overview and automatically you'll be taken to that very paragraph. Still, using the document overview, we have an outline. If you click on outline here, they will summarize to you all the characters you have on your page, the words you have, and the time you can take to read. This is still Gutenberg. And you can see at least all the levels of your heading will be summarized here. That is one way how we can use Gutenberg. Additional to formatting blocks, we have another way you can format, because you realize from this floating menu, besides transform, drag, resize, align, bold, italics, there could be other options or other format options you want to put. Maybe you want to increase the size of this heading. Maybe you want to change the color. So you can always click on the level or the block, proceed to this top menu and click on settings. Settings is always above on the extreme right here. If I click on X settings, they will expand a taskbar or they bring up a menu on the right that has more commands for you to format or control your block. For example, from this heading I've selected, you realize I have post and block. Post is for you to set up or to customize settings of the entire post. Block is for you to format this block. So I'm going to stick to block for now. Under block, first thing you can change is the color. Maybe you want to change the color of this heading. You click on text color, select the color of the block, and that will change accordingly. Maybe you want to add a background to a block. You highlight the block and then proceed to block on the extreme right under setting, click on background and choose a background in case you want to add a background to that very block. So there are options or more settings available on this extreme right for you to customize each block you select. Besides that, we have size. By default, it will put the size which is set according to the settings, but you may want to make a heading large. So you click on the block and the settings, choose the size from large, extra large, normal, depending on what suits your preference. Maybe medium, maybe, let me just for now leave it here in large a little bit. And what I want to show you more is for any block you click on, at least on the extreme right under the settings, besides typography, which has helped us change size, we have got dimensions, we have border, we have advanced. And by the way, even on typography, there are more options. If I click on these dots, you will realize you can change the font, you can change the appearance, change light. So you need to tick on all these ones in case you want to use them. For example, let me tick on all of them and you see what happens. I've ticked on them. Now, if I want maybe to add a drop cap on this paragraph on my post, I just have to click on the paragraph, go to block. Under typography, I have to make sure I've clicked on drop cap, because you see all the other options you want can be got after you have clicked on this. So after clicking on the or activating the block, the settings, I can tick to have a drop cap where you want to add a drop cap. Maybe I also want this one to have a drop cap. I can click on it, go under block, proceed to typography, click on options, select drop cap and choose drop cap. That is where you want to have it. Of course, besides that, there are typography options like font. You want to change the font, you want to change the line height, you want to change the line spacing, you want to change the letter case, whatever you want, tick on it, then proceed and select to change the font, select to change the size, increase the line height, the line spacing. I know you'll try to go over that accordingly. That is how to use the additional settings on the block here. Again, just before I finish up that, you may also want to add other blocks apart from these ones. At least I've demonstrated to you how we may add headings, how we can add paragraphs, how we can duplicate them, how we can move them from one position to another. And this normally comes when you're writing a story, adding content on your page. Of course, what you want to add depends on what your use case is that very instant. The use case automatically dictates. So when you want to add a different block, still there are options. One of the options I want to start with is you just have to click, maybe you click in a block, say you wanted to add a block in between these paragraphs. Just click on the block, move your cursor around, until, where is this one? Until there's this, let me first close the settings because we don't need it. I want you to have a complete screen. I'm also going to remove the full screen mode so that you have what we are discussing alone. You can always bring back the full screen mode accordingly using the earlier instructions there. So you may want to add a block, in any part. Option 1, you have to move and click around where you want to add that paragraph. From the floating menu, click on the options and then select add before, add after. That is to suit your preference. Add after will add a block after. And then click on the plus sign, search for a block of your choice. Maybe heading, maybe you want image, you want videos, whatever you want, you search accordingly. That's the other way. The second way is you can use the / and try to search whatever you want to add. Maybe columns, maybe a table. You want to add a table in your post. Maybe you want to add a list. Let me just demonstrate here on the list. So if you click on list, the list items will be added. Maybe this is the food, press enter, milk, tea. So you can create more items by pressing enter. That's called a list item. And how do you know? Because I told you every block you add, if you click on the document overview here, you will see the icon for every block together with a list of all your content. So this is the default icon for a list. Well, there's another way of adding blocks. For example, let me click at the extreme end and I press enter to create a new block. I can proceed and click on block inserter. Well, under block inserter, blocks are categorized according to purpose. If you're looking for a block to add text, these are blocks you can use to add text, maybe paragraph, maybe a heading, maybe a list, maybe a quote, maybe code, details, table, and so forth. All these ones have been categorized under text because they can help you to add text. If I to scroll down, we have another category called media. These blocks can help you to add media. For example, if I click on, say, image, they will add the block. And to add the image, there are two ways. You can always upload the picture. You can even add the image from a URL, like using a URL from a different website. Or I can click on media library and select any image of my preference to add in my block. Let me try to press enter to come out here. Proceed to show another demo. Under media, of course, you can add gallery, you can add cover. I think cover is very, very good. You can add a video and so forth. Let me try to scroll down a little bit. Another group is design. Now, design category help us to create layouts. You want to create columns, you want to create groups, you want to create a row, you want to create stacks, you want to create grids. We'll be using this to structure our content as we continue this week. The different blocks here can help us to create layouts. If I scroll, we have widgets, archives, calendar, term lists, and so forth. If I try to scroll, now we have theme. When you download a theme, themes come with blocks and some settings. For example, when you want to add a menu or a navigation, you want to add a site logo, site title, query loop, avatar, title, excerpt. So you can always search them under the theme category here. If I scroll down, I have embeds. This is another category. Maybe you want to embed a video from YouTube. You want to embed a Twitter or X message. You want to embed a Spotify content and so forth. Now, any content you want to add as embeds added from different websites, we have a category called embeds here. Again, if I scroll down, there are other theme templates here. Maybe before I leave that, you may want to customize the blocks here. To customize the blocks, you can always go to options. Remember, I told you on the extreme right, we have options here. Under options, if you scroll down, we have preferences. Now, let me click on preferences. If I click on preferences and I click on blocks, they will show us all the blocks that come along within our WordPress. Now, you may uncheck all these ones you're seeing with a tick or a check, and their icons on the right are the ones that are currently visible. If, say, you don't want certain blocks, maybe you don't want embeds, you just remove the tick on them. And now if I go to block inserter and I scroll at the bottom, you'll not get embeds because I've removed them. You can always bring them back by going to options, scroll down, click on preferences, click on blocks, and scroll at the bottom and tick. So this is for categories. You can uncheck categories to remove them. You can uncheck blocks to remove them. Very importantly, I want to show you this one. There's this one unchecked at the top. I have inserter, show most used blocks. Now let me tick this and I close. So if I now come to block inserter, you'll see another category which has appeared called most used. By default, it is deselected. You can always bring it back by going to options, scroll down, click on preferences, and then tick to add them. That is in case you want, rather under blocks, you can check to add them where you want blocks. So that is how we can access blocks. There is one thing which is common to all blocks. Every block you click on, it will have its floating option menu. And this differ. This menu you are seeing is different from this one. Like when I click on heading, they will give me the commands for formatting headings. If I click on a list, you'll have the extra options for formatting that list. If I click on paragraphs, you'll have the options for formatting a paragraph. If I click on a picture, you'll have the options for formatting our image. So every block we add in our post or page on our website can further be formatted using the floating menu, which varies according to the block that we have selected. Well, how about the document overview? Let me try to duplicate once more. I'm going to call this was opening paragraph. This one, I'm going to call it second. Okay, let me call this second section. No. Let me try to call this second heading. Okay, second heading. Let me call this one first heading. I'm just trying to rename them so that we can use them. I'm going to call this third heading as dummy content. And I want to duplicate to have more content. So I'm going to click on this heading, right click, rather click on options, select duplicate. Note that every command has got a shortcut. The shortcut for duplicate is Ctrl-Shift-D. I can also click on this and select options, then click duplicate. I can click on this and move it using what I've just talked about, and then rename this to fourth heading. So before we leave this option, I want to show you something very important in the document overview here. So the document overview, once more, help us to quickly access blocks. Because imagine you have a very long post or you have a very long page, a page having a lot of content. It is normally time consuming to scroll to identify content, but you can just use the document overview to jump or to skip or to get to that very content accordingly. So first role of the document overview is to help us access content easily when editing or customizing it. However, document overview can also help us to organize items. For example, I may realize that this first heading and this paragraph are tied together, like they are related. So I can group them. Briefly later, I will show you a very distinct purpose of creating groups or one other function of grouping items together. If I select this heading like I've done, and I select the other, to select the other, I hold Shift key on my keyboard and click heading. So I can put these ones together so that I can control them. How? For example, having selected them, I can right click and click on group. and it has now become a group. So once it is a group, you can always expand the items to see the items inside. And further, you can even proceed to rename for good identification. I can right click on this group, select rename, and I call this introduction. So document overview can help you organize your content together according to different properties. And once it is organized, you can further format, you can further control them as a group when giving them features like you discover. So let's just group this one. Let me group this. I needed the heading here. Okay, we'll put them together. So for the second heading, I'm going to go to settings under typography where there's size. I want to give it some also relative size for you to see something here. Remember, these are still basics, not yet very utilized. We're not tying them to an application, but as we continue, I'm going to apply them to a use case. I want to group these items also. To group, I select the first item, hold Shift key on my keyboard, select the other item, any other item you feel like. Yeah? And once you've selected them, you can proceed to right click and then select what? Let me highlight all these ones, including the heading. Yeah? Why is this one not being selected? I also want to control this heading. Okay, I can right click and select group. Let me right click, rename this as first section. Huh? Maybe you are writing an article and there are many sections, so you can group them together. So briefly, let me show you one advantage of grouping items together. When you group items together, like I've grouped the introduction, if I select this item, I can proceed, number one, to organize them in either a stack, in a row, in a grid. That's, you can only do that later. I'll explain what columns and rows and stacks are. But once you've grouped items, you can put them in any section. You can transform them to a group, to a stack, whatever you feel like. Yeah. What are stacks, what are columns, what are rows, what are grids, just hang on a little bit. Yeah? What else can you do once you have grouped items? You can also click on styles, for example. You can change the background of a group. When you're creating websites, you see we make some sections to appear in other colors. You've seen the web page. Let me just show you the front end here. This section is appearing in a color. If I scroll, this one is in white. This one is in a color. This one is in white background, like that. So you can change the color of blocks easily if they are grouped together. Let's try to group this and this. I'll click on this heading. I think with even this one, no. Okay, let me highlight 4 of them. Right click and select group. I'm going to right click, select rename, and we're going to call this as third section. It is very important for you to group items and to always rename them when you are creating an article, when you are creating pages, for easily controlling them. So I've grouped this paragraph. I've not grouped this. So because I've not grouped it, it means I can only edit it by clicking on it. How do you know you have grouped? You can know when you have grouped by clicking the document overview. It will show you all the items, those that are grouped and ungrouped accordingly. Then I want to change the background of this, so I can click on the group. I've selected third section using the document overview. I can proceed under the settings on the extreme right. Remember, I told you you can change the layout if you've grouped items from a column to a row to a stack to a grid and so forth. You can also change the width. You see currently it is having a certain width. You can always dictate the width. I'm going to talk about size when I'm talking about layout shortly. Besides that, you can click on style. Once more, I'm going to undo that one. You can always click on style, proceed, and go to background. Choose a background of your choice. And also you can change the color of text, say, to suit that design. So you can change the background color and change the text color of blocks if you've grouped them easily. Besides grouping, you can choose to ungroup. Maybe you have grouped items, but then you come to realization you no longer need groups. You don't need groups, so you can always again right click on the group that you have made. Let me just right click on this one, second section. So I'll right click on this group and then select ungroup. Also, to conclude in the anatomy here or on the block editor, because what I'm showing you are simple basics of a block inserter or Gutenberg generally. Usually, when you have added a paragraph, you can choose to move it anywhere. You can even edit it. How about where you are building a website with a team, and maybe in that team, there are people you're still supporting. You don't want them to edit a paragraph. You don't want them to move the paragraph. So you can lock a paragraph. You can lock a group. For example, I want to lock this heading so that even if you click on this option, you can't move it. You can't edit it. How do you lock a paragraph or lock a heading or a block? To lock a block, you can always click on the block. Say I've clicked on heading. Click on options. From these options you're seeing is the lock. And if I click on lock, they will ask, you'll have to choose. Do you want to lock movement? You want to lock removal? And if I click on all and I click apply, it means somebody cannot delete this block and cannot move. For example, even if I choose to move it, it can't move. Even if I try to delete it, if I click on this block and I want to remove, I can't remove it. Even if I click delete key on my keyboard, I cannot delete that block. But for other blocks, in case you wanted to delete a block, you just click on a block, click the options here, either way. The options you get from the document overview when you have selected are the same options you get from the floating menu, so they shouldn't worry you. You just click where your preference, where you work, where you feel it's good for you. For example, if I click on this, you realize from the options we have, at the extreme end is delete. The shortcut, Shift, Alt, Z. So if I click delete, the paragraph, the list goes away. And in Gutenberg, when you've made an error, you can always click on undo just to cancel that command. And it even has a shortcut. All these commands I'm exploring with you, if you hover the cursor on them, there is a shortcut. The shortcut for the document overview is Shift Alt O. This one to undo is Control Z, Control redo, Control, if you want to redo is Control Y. Okay, I think this summarizes just a brief about blocks here. We've talked about moving, we talked about changing, deleting, duplicating, and so forth, renaming. Well, from the block inserter here, maybe let's just talk about something here. If I click on the block inserter, by default, we see blocks categorized according to purpose. But besides blocks, we have got patterns, and then we have got media. Patterns, consider patterns as already created blocks for you or designs. Maybe you are creating an about us, there are always some patterns you can try to use. I'm going to explain them shortly what they are and how to create one. Headers are also patterns or template parts. So we have blocks. Under block inserter, we have blocks, patterns. Then we have media. And media, of course, like the word goes, you can add images, such images from your media, from the ones you've uploaded, or you can use the ones that are on internet, Openverse. That is by your theme. If you click on Openverse, there's some free pictures here you can use that come along with your theme. All right. Well, a little more, I want to show you also about the command palette. We've looked at these ones. Now we proceed to the command palette. What is the purpose of the command palette? First, I'm going to save as draft. I don't want to publish this, so I've clicked on save as drafts, meaning this post called full site editing is a draft. It's not live. Well, what is the purpose of the command palette? The command palette shows what we are working on. Currently, it shows that we are creating a post and the post title is called full site editing. Well, supposing you want to skip or you want to go back, edit a template, change colors without going to W, command palette helps you to access other different elements of your website quickly within a command. How? If I hover my cursor and click on command palette, it will bring up this search box. You can also always use a shortcut. You can look at the extreme end. The shortcut is Control K. So from the command palette, you can search for whatever you want to edit. Maybe you want to go and edit templates. You type templates. And now when I click on templates, they will switch me to the templates. I've clicked on templates and it's loading for me template. Just that it is loading slowly. Why is it taking time? But on my bar here, it is trying to load. But it is taking its time. Oops, this is very bad. So finally it has opened. So command palette, I'm going to use the arrow key to go back because it has just opened to templates quickly within a command. Let me use the back arrow here to go back. So this site is local. We are using local. Why are you loading slowly? Something I have to check. It should be loading faster. I have to check, realize why it's loading slowly. Can even imagine it has brought an error, bad gateway. That's very bad. So, of course, we are under posts, and the post we are looking at so far is full site editing. I want to edit it. I'll open it in a new tab. And that is our post. We are looking at the command palette here. Please, if you want to skip to anything else without going to dashboard, you can always use the command palette. Even if you wanted to go to headers or template parts, remember headers are template parts. You can always write template parts to go to the template parts. Or you want to go to styles, you type styles. And automatically, if I click on styles, they will redirect me to styles. So one overall summary here is the command palette helps us to skip to different sections of our web page with just a command. Okay, as it loads, I don't know why it's taking that long. I'm going to go back to my dashboard. Like you can see, I'm still under posts here. I now want to open a real post because we've looked at a dummy post. So I'm going to edit this post now that we can create posts, and we try to summarize some few things there on the posts. So here is this post. It is already live. I've disabled the full screen mode. I know if you open on your end, you will have the full screen mode. So I've disabled it. I can always bring it back. You want to cram shortcut. Shortcut is Control, Shift, Alt, F. So any command available in WordPress has got a shortcut. Well, you've noted in some posts, when you are reading, there's always at least a quick menu. You know, this post is very small. It's called Speed Reading Techniques for Busy Students. I have this paragraph, this paragraph, this paragraph, and this paragraph. Well, you can always try to create a summary. For example, imagine, let me just demonstrate something here. Let me call this outline. Now I'm going to put this as paragraph 1. Okay, I'm just using demo, oh, okay, I think that one. Paragraph 1, paragraph, okay, 2. I'm going to call this paragraph, paragraph 3. How many paragraphs do we have? We have 4. All right, let me create a 4th one. So when creating posts, especially long posts, we can create anchor tags that when a person clicks on this, they are taken to that very paragraph or that very section of the post accordingly. So how do you create anchor tags? To create anchor tags, we just use the settings I'm talking about here. All you have to do is you click on the paragraph. Okay. When I click on the paragraph, on the extreme end, I've got the settings on my right. We've explored color, we've explored typography, dimensions, and border are coming shortly. So under advanced here, we have got HTML anchor. So if I label this as paragraph 1, I've labeled it as paragraph 1. We've created the anchor, and on my extreme right, I'm going to try to, excuse me. Sorry about that. So I've clicked on the paragraph. Under the advanced, I've added an anchor using the document overview here. If you can see, at least the list item has got what? An anchor called paragraph 1. So how do I use this anchor? If I go to my paragraph 1 above and then right click on it, I can click on hyperlink and then put hash symbol and then put in paragraph 1 as the anchor. How is that useful? Let me first create more anchor tags as well, and you see how useful it is. I've clicked on the second list item, and I'm going to go to advanced still. I'll put in maybe paragraph 2, just a word. Okay, I hope I've written it well, paragraph 2. So I can go to paragraph 2 on top here, click on link, I put hash symbol, and I put paragraph 2, click enter. Let me also go and click on this item. Under advanced, I put HTML anchor as paragraph. Okay, we are calling this as paragraph 3. Then the last one, practice drills, we're going to call it paragraph what? Paragraph 4 under anchor tag, HTML anchor. Now, when I come to paragraph 3 and highlight it, then I click on hyperlink from the floating menu. First, I put the hash symbol, and then I put paragraph 3 as that anchor tag, press enter. Then the last one, still I'll click on paragraph 4, rather highlight the word, click on hyperlink, and then put the hash symbol, and then put in paragraph 4, and then press enter. Now, how is that helpful? We are going to preview this post. Let me first save it. Of course, just after the command palette, we have this one, which is view post. And then we have got view here, which can help you to switch between tablet, mobile, and so forth. So I'm going to preview it by clicking this icon to preview it, and you see the purpose of anchor tags. So in our post, imagine it was a long post. If I click on paragraph 1, they take me to paragraph 1. If I click on paragraph 2, they take me to paragraph 2. If I click on paragraph 3, they take me to paragraph 3. If I click on paragraph 4, they take me to, hey, I think I didn't save this, sorry. But I believe you have the idea of what anchor tags. These are under block and between advanced. We normally have to create these lists or anchor tags to speed up access, to enhance quick access of content to the users, usually when they are reading or accessing our articles. So please, I know there are more blocks here we are going to explore as we look at the use cases, but I think generally that is all about posts. Before I conclude the basics, I'm going to show you what patterns are, and probably we see how we can use them. I will click on W and we go back to our dashboard. Remember, I've been demonstrating to you how to use Gutenberg Editor to add posts using different blocks. Only one thing left is for us to create one post together using various use cases, and I'll be demonstrating to you that accordingly. Let me try to filter pages, because at least now you have seen how we use Gutenberg to create page posts, and also utilizing the anchor tags here to link or connect different paragraphs together. I'm going to click on pages and show you different pages here. So far, I have created these pages, but you know they are blank. I'm first going to show you what patterns are in the home page here. So I'm going to right click on home and I'll edit it in a new tab to open it. But as well, I want to show you that in a blanker page. So I'm going to also open the About Us page in a new tab. So I have two pages loading up here quickly for us to explore. And if you recall, I think there are a little bit here on the home page. The easiest I'm going to do, allow me open it afresh. Please, nothing much here. I'm just trying to open my page and we see what patterns are and how we can use patterns accordingly. So this is the home page. So far, you know that there is content and content added using blocks. Last time I told you for home page or landing pages, we always click edit sites because we use the front page or the main template to control the content. So I'm going to click on edit site to just have access to this content. Literally, I can also begin with About Us page. Now, what are patterns? From the block inserter here, there is blocks and patterns. What are patterns? Patterns are already created designs or sections that we can customize to add content on our web pages. Take a look here. There are some templates. If I click on About, maybe I'm creating the About Us. There's this pattern, a reusable block. You can define a pattern as a reusable block or section of a block. Okay, that theory is still abstract. We need to have an example to help us understand that accordingly. Let's begin with a simple example. I'm going to collapse this, okay? So I'm going to click on the document overview to show you something. From this page, I have got a block, which is a paragraph. The document overview here can tell you the type of blocks used. And every block I've told you has got its icon. You can just rename, but at least it will always show the icon and the name of the block. We use the document overview to access different items or different sections of our page. And we can even click on outline to know the content there, the hierarchy of different levels of heading. So you may have created or spent time creating a block or a section. For example, on this About Us page, I have got this section which has got an image, our mission, together with a call to action, rather a button here, learn more. I've grouped it under mission. So if you are going to use, if you've spent a lot of time editing a block and you want to use it elsewhere on a different page, a web page on your web page, on your website, then you can convert it to patterns. So pattern allows you to set it to reusable, to mode which you can reuse it on different sections of your website. Take a look. If I wanted to add this on the home page without wasting time again to create it, I just have to click on my block or the group I've created. Click on the options. Under options, of course, you have different options, but above all, there is create a pattern. Now, when I click on create pattern, I have to give a pattern a name. So you have to use good naming convention. Maybe let me call this one as About Us, and then maybe I'll just put our mission. About Us mission. So when creating patterns, you give them a name. Above all, at the bottom, we have got synced. When this button is clicked or when this is active, it means that this block is going to be edited anywhere it is added. For example, if I make it a pattern, you can see when the color of the icon changes from the document overview. Originally, it was a group, but now it has even become, it has taken a different icon and even the colors changed accordingly. So what this means, because it is synced, it means that wherever that block is added, if you edit it that in a particular position, everywhere where it is used is going to change. When you sync a pattern, every time you edit it, it is going to reflect that new change wherever you've added. So I've created a pattern here. Now, if I go to Block Inserter and I click on Patterns, if I scroll down and now click on Explore All Patterns, there's a new category called My Patterns, and My Patterns will be even here in this block. If I click on Patterns, I have My Patterns, and it is here added. So let me skip to this front page, this home page. Let's imagine I want to add this block on the home page. I just have to come to the home page. Remember, you want to quickly select items very well. Click on the document overview. Document overview will outline all the items you have. So the header and footer are usual patterns. Remember, earlier on, if you don't forget, when we're adding headers, we went to Appearance, went to Editor, and for us to add them, we selected at least a category called Patterns. Why are they called patterns? It's because they are reusable. Patterns are reusable blocks or sections you can add throughout all your website, on pages, on posts, etc. extra. Take a look. I want us to proceed and add a pattern, I think after testimonials, just as an example. Already the front page has got an About Us, but just for demonstration. So I want to add this post after this. So how do I select this? I can just, if I don't know how to use the document overview, I can click on any item, okay, on that particular section. So this floating menu we have already discussed will come bearing the additional formatting options for that particular block. But at the extreme end, there is this other icon, which is select parent block. So you can click this select parent block. You can click again to select the column. You can click again to select everything. So you can keep selecting this until you get the group. And how do you know you have selected a group? It will bear some border around it. If that is tough, then you can always expand to the document overview and select the groups accordingly. For example, in our use case, we want to add a group after this. So I will select this group, click on the dots at the extreme end, and then I now go and click on add after. So if I click add after, they will add an empty block. So how do I now add my pattern? So I just go to the block inserter, filter by clicking on patterns, and then click on the category of my patterns. If you don't see it here, don't worry, just click on explore all patterns, and it's not coming because I just need to refresh it. Why I have to refresh it? Because I've refreshed the page to have the changes. So when you are creating pages and you have already opened another page, for it to reflect or to have what you have just created elsewhere, I need to refresh. All right, it's refreshing. I just need a minute from you as I wind up this section. All right, it has gotten there. Now, what we shall do is to go back to our document overview like we did. Select the group, click on the dots, click add after. Paragraph will be added, blank. Now, use the block inserter. Click on the plus sign. Click on patterns. And now you see we have my patterns. So I can click on my patterns. And all the patterns you have saved will be here. So I can click on About Us, and boom, that pattern will be added in your part accordingly. Remember, if it has been added and maybe it has gone to the section you don't want, you don't panic. You just use the document overview here to drag that pattern and put it wherever you want. You can even use this floating menu. In the floating menu, we have got this move up, we have got move down, which can allow you to switch besides dragging. Now, maybe you have pasted your pattern, like take a look, I have pasted this. Remember, currently it is still synced. Synced means if I try to change this picture, it means everywhere that pattern is going to be edited. For example, if I click on Edit Original, they are going to open the pattern. And if I change this picture, let me just change it for you to see. So I'll click on the picture from the floating menu, and I click on Replace. And then when we go to Media Library, like we did before, from our pictures, I can select any picture, click Select. And when I'm done, I click Save. So when everything is done now and I return back to my page, how do I return? I can just use the W to go back to my page where I was initially. Perhaps the other forward slash would have, the back arrow would have helped. Now I'm going to refresh on the About Us page. I'm just refreshing the pages, please, nothing much, trying to refresh them to show you what synced patterns are. I'm refreshing the page, and I've emphatically told you if you sync a pattern when you are saving it, it becomes a pattern you can use everywhere. Okay, let me first check on this here. The image has been added about here. Oh, okay. So this is just the original, and you don't expect it to change. It would change maybe if I click on this document overview, like I've done, click on the group, and now I click on the dots. I select add after, just as we have done. Using the block inserter, now if I click on patterns, click on my patterns, click on the about us page, you see the picture has been updated. Like you see, this is not the picture we saved. For that reason, whenever you have added a pattern, let me just imagine you've added the pattern and you want it to change only on this page. You don't want to edit the original, but you just want to change here. The purpose of using patterns is to ease time for you to add content. When you have spent time later, you will see when we are doing the real work on Wednesday and Thursday. Because Wednesday, Thursday, for this week, we will be having a real use case. When we're having the real use case, you realize that you will spend a lot of time editing a pattern, a section. So you don't want again to waste or use that same time creating similar things. So you can always group it and then try to create patterns from these dots. Conclusively, whenever you paste a pattern or add a pattern, you can always click on these dots and then go and select detach. How? I can click on these options. First, you click on the pattern, you select the pattern from the floating menu here, click on the options and then select detach. So detach will disconnect it from the main pattern. In that case, any customization you make to that particular block or that particular image or section will not be added or will not be reflected on the main pattern that you originally saved. All right, that is it we had today. Today we've been introducing you to Gutenberg, probably how to use the different blocks, the different settings to customize those blocks. In the next lecture, we'll be putting those blocks to use cases while creating our web page. My take home for you, or the take home for you, is try to create dummy content on your web page like we did from your WordPress studio. When you open WordPress studio using your local site, do me a favor, create dummy posts, create dummy pages, add different blocks of your choice, practice grouping them, practice adding anchor tags like we added on this post. Where is the post? Like we added on the post. Change the color, add section, rename the sections as we prepare. So when we meet next time, we'll be using our wireframe we created last time to now put those groups to use cases, or put the blocks to the use cases. I now want to invite people who have questions. You're free to unmute and then we interact closely, especially if you have a question accordingly. A great appreciation to my mentor, Mr. Mkaleli. Thank you for joining. Brother Collins and Madam Peace, thank you as well for joining. So please, if you have any question, any comment, you're free to put up your hand and ask accordingly. The silence is loud. Okay. Now that means members don't have a question. So I'm going to close the class today. Last appeal, if there's any person having a question or comment, please feel free to put up your hand, ask the question accordingly, and I will clarify. Or if it's a comment, we'll take it as we conclude our lecture. Yes, Mr. Peter.
Okay, thank you so much, Teacher Dennis, for that wonderful orientation that you have taken us today. It is really very good practical, and we have touched a lot of things here and then. Really appreciate it. Me, I have maybe what we didn't touch last time is about the header. If like I want it to be a sticky header, it doesn't like, it should not be moving when you're scrolling the body of the text. It shouldn't, the header shouldn't disappear. That's where we didn't touch. And also, I realized in our theme, there are some parts that we're not accepting to be edited. Like even if you try to ungroup the blob, some images disappear completely and disorganizes it. I don't know what could have been the case. Others were not accepting to actually to other images are not accepting to change. Maybe there are some other I would say some other codes that they need. Otherwise, the lecture is very cool and good. I really enjoy it. Thank you so much.
Kale, you're welcome. Thank you, thank you. Now, to give you this surety, first of all, if you look at our week 3 deliverables, today we've been looking at the basics of Gutenberg Block Editor. On Wednesday, we'll pick up from installing fonts quickly, color palette, things we've been discussing as we try to put use cases to what we've learned. However, to our deliverable this week, we're supposed to create a responsive header and a responsive footer, together with adding other content on different pages. We pray that is achieved. For the header we currently have, it is within the theme we downloaded. And unlike, you see, our roller is just always been customizing the header to our preference because it already comes within the theme. And customization is simple. Once you've clicked on the header and we click on the header, we can always try to make it sticky. I'll try to show you that as we continue according, just as I told you about the anchor tags. We will have to apply that accordingly as we go along. So mine to give you assurance as we get along. This week, we're creating our header and footer. Want to look at how we use those blocks and how we use different design layout blocks like columns and stacks to create our header. That is putting them to use cases. Above all, how do we make it sticky so that it does not scroll on a web page? Thank you. Otherwise, we receive the compliment warmly as well. Any other person? All right. Thank you for attending the lecture today. I would want to invite any volunteer to lead us in a closing prayer. Any volunteer to lead us in a closing prayer?
Okay.
Maybe before you pray, my mentor, Mr. Mkalele, your hand is up, sir. Just a little.
Yeah, it's okay. Thank you very much for the session. I've been up and down this week and even last week. We are organizing the exhibition for next week. And many of the projects actually learners did WordPress powered. So I want to thank you very much for the session, especially these various components you have been talking about, members to understand the patterns, the blocks, all those various things in WordPress. Because many times some members learn, they just learn on they really, but now, future, whenever they meet this, someone talking about some of these like template parts, all these things, they will be able to understand. Even when you attend a WordCamp and someone is talking WordPress jargon, you understand and know how to use what. Yeah, and many people sometimes like those pages, like the archive pages, and sometimes someone goes and edits and removes the content block, and then all the pages don't have content because they didn't understand the difference between a template and a page. Yeah, so these are very, very important things. I know some members may still be trying to appreciate them, but it will be a very good thing. Yeah, so thank you very much. Yeah, we can have and proceed and do the closing prayer. Thank you, Mr. Ogish.
You're welcome. Thank you too, sir. Madam, peace back to you, comrade.
Thank you so much, Teacher Ogisha. You're really such a blessing to us. And we thank God for the skill of teaching, the talent that God has given you. Okay, let us humble ourselves for the prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this session. Thank you so much for the idea that you dropped into Teacher Dennis's head to actually come up with this kind of course. Because it would not be easy for us to just watch videos online or try to teach ourselves. It would be very difficult to actually understand all these concepts right from first principles. We just pray, God, that you give us wisdom, widen our understanding, that we may be able to follow through and this course may come to we may follow through up to the end of this course. Give our mental wisdom and availability and time, and if all our colleagues that have not yet paid or cleared, we pray that God, you provide. Thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you so much, Tisha.
Amen. Thank you too.
Amen.
Colleagues, thank you for attending. Let's meet again on Wednesday. This week, like I told you, our lecture for Friday has been moved to Thursday, and we've narrowed them. Our goal is to complete in 1 hour. Some of those minutes are inevitably taken. So on Friday, we'll not have a lecture for purposes of rescheduling. We apologize for any inconveniences caused. So we'll move the lecture to Thursday and Wednesday. Till then, have a good day. Thank you all.